Well, hey, welcome to A Valid Answer with Scott and Marshall. How you guys doing out there? Let me hear you. We can't hear you. What was that? Yeah, no, we're just messing with you. We can't hear you, but we are here. You'll notice that the background is slightly different where I'm at. I'm not actually in my studio at my office. I decided to try this from home, and it's kind of hard to tell what's behind me, but I'm actually in my Lego room. Yes, I have a Lego room at my house because yeah, I build Legos and stuff. So if you guys follow my Instagram, Pastor Macman, you can see I'm working on a little bit of a Lego project right now. But yeah, where are you, Marshall?
Well, I'm at home, but I am busy just posting everything, getting everything posted to my pages so that people can see this and come to type and say,
Oh no! See, when you type, it's so loud in our ears. Oh
there
my
we
god.
go. All
Okay,
right, that's
cool.
it. I kept it to a minimum. Hi, Scott. How you doing?
Good,
I
good.
see you're on from your house. That's fantastic. I'm on from my house at the beach.
Yeah,
I am
rub it
happy.
in.
You
It's
are
not too bad.
happy.
It's
All
actually
is
not too
well.
bad. It's not too bad here in Bakersfield today. It was only like around noon. It was like 80 degrees. It wasn't actually too bad here
What?
today. Yeah,
That's unprecedented.
unprecedented in this global warming climate, right? Yeah.
Right? Well,
Sorry, I
we'll
had to
have
throw
to
that
do a
in there.
show about that, but that's
Oh my
remarkable.
gosh. Yeah.
Only 80 at noon in Bakersfield in early August. What do you
Yeah.
do?
What do you do? Well, I mean, you just enjoy it as long as you can. That's what you do. But hey, we're kind of continuing the topic a little bit. We're not really continuing about the we talked about mass shootings last
Yep.
week because that was really prominent in the news and things going on and stuff like that. But that has kind of triggered. I guess that was a bad way of saying that. Didn't it wasn't an intentional. Wasn't intentional. What's the word I'm looking for? Uh,
A consequence?
no, when you say accidentally.
Unintended
No,
consequence?
no, when you say ironic joke. That was not supposed to be a pun. No pun intended. That's the phrase I'm looking for when I said it triggered.
Okay.
But basically, there's several states that are looking at what are being called red flag laws. And if
Hmm.
you're not familiar with those, basically it's laws that basically say let's write some laws that give the government power to take away guns from someone who shows a lot of red flags. I mean, it sounds on its surface, it sounds like a good preventative idea of, there's these people that, people would look at them and say, wow, this person's going to go shoot up a place. Let's go take away their guns.
Hmm.
Let's look at the red flag warnings and let's preemptively move on that before this person actually goes and kills people. So
Hmm.
it's well intended, and it sounds good on the surface. I feel that there is some tremendous problems with the concept of it, but I mean, we have some of these laws passing. We have literally it happened right here in Bakersfield. I don't know if you heard about that, but a person here locally got his house looked into and his firearms removed. It's a little bit different in that he actually made some threats. So I feel that there's a difference between someone actually making threats and people looking and saying, I think this person shouldn't have guns. So
Hmm.
I'd like to talk about the difference between that of what we can, what is it gonna look like? What do you feel? Have you heard about these red flag laws and how do you feel about it, Marshall?
Well, I think the government is going to have to balance a couple of different rights. One is the right to life, and the other is the right to property. Um, the government is essentially chartered to defend life as well as
Yep.
property. And so the two are naturally in opposition at times, and certainly they are in this case. Um,
Is it just
and
property though?
something has to be
Is it
done.
just property though? It's a
Well, the government
constitutionally
does.
guaranteed right. I don't know that I think it's beyond just the idea of, well, hey, this person wants to own this. I think it's not just about property.
Well, do you agree that we have a right to life under our Constitution?
Yes.
Okay, so you have these two rights, and I understand that the enumeration of the rights can't be used to justify this one versus that one. but at the same time, the right to life presupposes all other rights presuppose the right to life. If you don't have life, you have no rights.
Very true.
So to me, the right to life kind of trumps everything. And in a circumstance when life is endangered, and I think there has to be danger, I think law enforcement should be compelled to prove their case within a very short period of time, such as 24 to 72 hours of going out and making a seizure. I don't know what the law is when it comes to other things like automobiles or other property that officers may seize. I believe that if they don't file charges, they have to return the property to
Mm-hmm.
you. And I don't know what the timeframes are, but since we're dealing with a constitutionally guaranteed right, that I don't know. I think something like 72 hours is appropriate. Um,
So you're
no,
good. You're good with police officers sitting outside of bars and confiscating people's cars.
they do that already. They do
No,
that
no, they
now.
have
If you have,
no. They have to catch you in your car. I'm talking about you're walking out of the bar. Hey, we're
oh
gonna
yeah, yeah. If you're pulled over at a traffic stop and
right.
you're
But I'm saying
intoxicated,
you're okay with before they actually do it. You're okay with seizing their car while they're at the bar before
no,
they even get in their car.
there has to be some kind of evidence, such as a statement that you've made,
Something
or
actionable.
what's that?
Something actionable.
Right, there has to be something actionable, but then the question is, what do we consider actionable?
Exactly.
For example, if I post on social media that I'm going to do something terrible, that I would think would be actionable. That's a
I would think
terrorist threat,
I would think so too.
you know. But if your wife smacks you with a frying pan because she doesn't like something that you've said or done, does that mean that we go in and confiscate all the firearms in the house? And I don't know about that. I don't think that's necessarily actionable. That's just a violent domestic dispute. I don't know though. In
Which is
cases of
which
physical violence,
interestingly enough is usually the most dangerous situations for police officers to walk into. Actually, that's
what's that?
domestic
Domestic.
situations. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where they get
So
hurt the most, as I
there might
understand.
be a case where if she actually did smack you with a frying pan, I was just using that as an analogy of a domestic dispute. But actually, domestic disputes can be serious and they can be violent, and people can be injured. And but if you're just in a shouting match and somebody wants to get even with you, or let's say a coworker wants to persecute you somehow, let's say you have a falling out with a coworker, what stops a coworker from calling law enforcement and say, "Hey, go over to where Scott works and or go to his house and seize his
Yeah.
firearms."
Or how do you
You
what
know?
at what point is a threat credible? Can I just simply say, "Hey, Marshall threatened me on the phone and said he was going to come over and kill me." It's my word against
Mm-hmm,
yours.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like where does something become actionable? Because again, the situation that I saw somebody post about here in town, the person was from what I understand at a Kern County supervisors meeting and told each supervisor, like looked at them at the supervisor meeting and quoted the Jules quote, the Samuel Jackson quote from Pulp Fiction, where he's talking about, Ezekiel 20, Ezekiel 29:17 or whatever it is, and I will bring vengeance
The
upon thee.
path of the
Yeah, and
righteous
I and
man.
literally
Yeah,
pointing
yeah,
at them and say, I'll bring, and I am the Lord God, and I'll bring vengeance upon you. I'm like, that to me seems actionable. I mean,
yeah.
I like being on the side of saying, let's not, start, prosecuting people for crimes that they haven't committed yet. But at the same time, that seems like an actionable threat.
So here's a thought. Rather than confiscate the firearms, why not confiscate the person? Why not detain the individual? Law enforcement has the right to detain an individual. If, for example, you say that you're going to harm yourself, they put you on suicide
Unless you're Jeffrey
watch.
Epstein.
Uh, well, yeah,
Sorry,
but they
not
actually
gonna
take you
go
down to
down that
the
not gonna go
hospital.
down that road today.
Yeah, I'm not going to go there right now. But they take you to the
Mm-hmm.
hospital, and I know in Bakersfield at Kern Medical Center there is a
Mm-hmm.
ward,
3B.
and they lock you up there for a certain amount of time. Now, I don't know if it's 3 days or so many hours or what, but basically you're going to be locked up there in a situation where you cannot harm yourself or others. So if we believe that a person is that much of a threat, why are we going after inanimate objects? Because a firearm requires a person to wield it. Why not do something with the
Welcome
person?
to the right. Welcome to the political right.
Right?
But again,
You know,
I just want to say, what good does 3 days do?
well, in the 3 day time, first of all, it's inherently a cooling off period. Second of
Well,
all, you
hold
might
on.
be
But
able
are
to
you making an
evaluate the
assumption that
person.
these people are somehow angry and like this is a rash decision that they're just going to go shoot up a place that if they had 3 days to cool off in a mental institution, they'll be like, "You're right. I probably shouldn't go shoot up this place."
Maybe. I would imagine that a lot of these things are impulse driven, but not always. Oftentimes they're also
Mm-hmm.
premeditated. But there seems to be a triggering event, like the guy in Dayton. Apparently, there was something that triggered him. I mean, he drove to this bar, and I don't know if he had the equipment with him or if he went home and got it. It was like an hour's drive, or something. So he probably had it in the car. But he spent an hour at the bar before getting equipped and shooting the whole place up. So I don't know what it was that, triggered it, or if he was already triggered and he was
Yeah,
just working
I
up the
say
courage, or what. I don't.
maybe it takes a lot of talking yourself into stuff to do that.
Maybe, but again, if you put time between a mass shooter and the deed, you might be able to sort of get them off the
I
ledge
think
a little. It's the same with
Jackie
psych.
Cameron is saying something about that, and I think this is probably a better answer to my question. 3 days offers time for evaluation by a doctor to see if the person is a threat or not. Maybe
Well,
that would
yeah,
help.
there would
Yeah,
have to be evaluation. There has to be, because you're detaining a person. There either has to be credible reason to believe that a crime is about to be committed, or you're going to evaluate the person. And I mean, I don't think you can just take a person and throw them in the slammer for three
mm-hmm.
days and okay, time's
Okay,
up.
so
No, I
what
mean,
happens? So what happens? Maybe this person makes a threat. Maybe somebody perceives it as a threat. Whatever it is, it seems like enough to bring this person into psychiatric evaluation. They're there for 3 days. They examine them. They realize, wow, this person, you know, they may be upset about something, or but they weren't really there. We've determined that this was really not good that we brought him in. Everything was fine with this person. We check out. He checks out. We go out. They release him, and 2 days later, he goes on a shooting spree. Is there now liability on the doctors and the people
no.
who
I would
no,
say no,
I don't mean legal
because
liability. Is there going to be righteously some courtroom of public opinion liability?
well, that's always going to be the case. But at the end of the day, legal decisions are usually based on standards. And the same with medical decisions. Again, there's a standard that has to be met. It's just like the like medical billing. In order to bill your doctor has to put a certain language and a specific 4 or 5 number code, or whatever it is, 4 or 5 digit code, and that has to go to the insurance company. And the insurance company then, if it meets that criteria, if the code and the language match, then they go ahead and pay the claim. And it's not much different with law. With law, it tells you this is in, this is out. And if it's a gray area, then you look to prior precedent.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at what other judges have ruled in similar cases. And if there's prior precedent, you tend to follow the prior precedent. And then there might be something where there is some kind of discretion, where, this person has a history of mental illness or something like that. But at the end of the day, you're either going to make the decision in or out, and it's going to be a medical decision signed off by a judge. There should be the district attorney, the judge, and an expert witness, such as a doctor who's performed an evaluation,
Yeah.
perform the evaluation and say this person is good to go. And if that's the decision, that's the decision. And you wash your hands, and this person goes out and still does something. We can't protect everybody. We can't stop every single evil deed, and we certainly don't want to get into Minority Report pre-crime kind of stuff or thought
Mm-hmm.
crime kind of stuff, because that gets very Orwellian. But at the same time,
Yeah.
we do have to do something reasonable to deal with the people who pose a threat to others.
So
So,
here's the thing, though. Most of the time, outside of what was it, Douglas Marjorie, the shooting at the school, was it last year or the year before? Outside of that one, because that one was a person who was known to have issues, was actually visited a few times by police officials because people were concerned about him and everything like that, and that still didn't stop it from happening. Like, there were all kinds of red flags, but most of the time, most of the time in these shootings, what you hear is about the shooter, like, man, he was fine. There were no red flags. Nobody saw this coming. That was just a normal kid. Most of the time, there are no red flags to the people who do this.
Yeah, well, in that case,
What will
there's
this
nothing we
actually
can do.
accomplish? Right. What is this going to actually accomplish except just more than likely give an open door to paranoid people, giving power to paranoid people to call the police on people that they're paranoid about? I
Well,
believe
at the
this.
end of the day,
I believe there is much more chance of abuse with these red flag laws than there is of actually stopping something.
at the end of the day, a case will have to be proven. Whether it's a psych or a police officer, district attorney, someone is going to have to prove a case to a judge that this detention was valid. First of all, they probably should follow a process that's akin to getting a warrant. And then, second of all, they're going to have to prove to a judge after they've got the warrant, after they've collected the evidence, after they've done an evaluation, that what they did was just, and that this person should or should not receive their property back.
Well, I'm
Then
talking about. I know you're talking about the legal idea, the due process. Um, I have to take issue with something that Jackie put on here. She says there's always red flags. There were always red flags, and there was a video that was put out just after Sandy Hook, actually, that somebody else posted again, and it looks really good. It's shot very well. It's a wonderful little story. I don't know if you've seen it. It's the boy and the girl sending messages back and forth, writing on the desk in the library. Have you seen that video? I'll describe it for those who have not seen it. It shows this boy just writing on the desk in the library saying, "I'm bored," like that. And it shows like the next day he comes back, he's in different clothes. The next day he comes back and somebody has written back, and it looks like girl's handwriting. It says, "Hi, bored. Hi, bored. I'm like another different name. How are you doing?" So then he writes back, and it shows like several days going by of them writing notes back and forth. He says, who is this? And like, it's like this cute little romantic story going on. It's, "I want to meet you," and stuff like that. And it gets to the end of the school year, and he goes to try to get in the library, and the library's closed. It says, was it closed for the summer? It's the end of the year. And the boy's like, "Oh, I'm not going to find out who this is." So he's at the yearbook signing party, and he's signing yearbooks and everything like that. And he signs it, and he's got this particular looking handwriting that's been written on the table. And he signs this one book of a girl and hands it back to her, and she looks at it and recognizes the handwriting. She's like, "Oh, hey, aren't you so-and-so?" And they started, and as they're talking, a door opens up in the background, and a student walks in with a gun and starts shooting up the place. And you're like, "What?" And then it says, the text says, "Mass shootings are preventable. You just have to look for the signs." And it goes back through the very beginning of the video, and it shows the kid writing on the back, writing on the desk, and then it kind of pauses and shows in the background another kid who's reading a gun magazine. And then it shows him writing on the desk, and shows the other kid who's watching a gun video on YouTube. And then it shows, him, he's in the hallway walking, trying to, on the text, and it shows a kid being pushed against a locker and getting his books knocked on the ground. It's all the same kid. And then it shows him scrolling through Instagram and like that, and he passes a picture of the kid holding a gun. Then it goes back and it shows the kid, as the teacher walks by, the kid goes at the teacher. Okay. And it's like, these are all signs you should look out for. It's preventable if you see the signs. And it's like, if that's what you're going to be doing, that when you're talking about red flag laws in the courtroom of public opinion, that's what's going to start happening. You're going to start having, you're going to start,
the laws have,
that's what I'm saying.
The laws have,
I'm not
talking
about the laws. I'm talking about the people reporting. I'm talking about people who now are going to feel they have the power and the responsibility to call in their neighbor and call in this person.
Well, this happens right now. This happens presently in the status quo. And ultimately, at the end of the day, an expert has to make a determination, probably multiple experts. So you're going to have the call come into law enforcement. Law enforcement will have to make a quick determination based on what they understand the law says. And then if they actually take action, then they're going to have to justify that to a judge. And then a district attorney is going to review it. And then you're going to get more reports and so on. So at the end of the day, just because somebody calls something in, people can call things in right now. I mean, that actually happens. It's called swatting or something when it's done online. And and
But I'm saying
people can do that. There's
creating these
nothing that
laws.
stops
But I'm
somebody
saying creating
from
laws. But
accusing.
I'm saying they're talking about creating red flag laws that gives power to these accusations, specifically these accusations.
Accusations already have power. They already have power, I feel. But at the end of the day, there's liability. If you make a false accusation, then and you, particularly, you harm their civil rights, well, there's liability involved. If a person is harmed physically because of a false accusation that you've made, there's certainly a civil case, if not a criminal case, it's going to be made against you. So I don't think this is something that people are going to take lightly. Will it be abused? There will be cases of it, but then the law has a system for working that out as well. And at the end of the day, I think the goal is not to eliminate mass shootings, but to reduce their incidence. And if there is a clear threat that a person is dangerous to others, then what I think needs to happen is that person should be detained. As far as removing the firearms, I don't know, but certainly that person needs to be brought in and evaluated.
Yeah, and I'm just, again, I'm concerned as a person. Would you say that I am mentally imbalanced?
No,
Even though I believe in a sky fairy, I believe that
no,
he talks to me.
no. Thing you believe in a sky fairy that tells you to behave and act right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh, so if I was Muslim, then you'd have a problem
I wouldn't have a problem with the Muslim either.
because their sky fairy says to kill the infidel.
Right. Well, that's a very narrow interpretation. No, no, I don't think any of these is going to result in, certainly not me or any other rational person calling somebody on you. And again, there is a consequence for making false accusations, and that consequence will have to be enforced. And even if you make a false accusation, well, that accusation then has to be substantiated very early in the law enforcement process. But the bottom line is, if these laws have the impact of saving stopping a couple of mass shootings per year, save a few dozen people, and maybe it means that a dozen people here or there are inconvenienced for a day or two. I understand that that's not necessarily an acceptable price. Well, it is an acceptable price if it saves a few dozen lives, and those people should be compensated for the false accusation. They should be very simple for them to obtain. Um, you know, reparation for their injury. So no, I don't think people are going to harm the law like this. Certainly not widespread. I think it will happen from time to time. But again, I think there should be a mechanism for if somebody calls in a false report. And you can actually write that into the law.
Do you think that is something that'll actually be written into the law, or do you think it's more likely that there'll be a clause written in there that you will not be punished, like a whistleblower law? You know what I mean? Like a whistleblower cannot be punished for calling it in.
No, if you are, no, this isn't a whistleblower scenario.
It's
This is
literally what
something
it is.
completely different. No, this is where you are basically, as a citizen, about to make a citizen's arrest because you believe there is a clear and present danger to a person or the community, and you're calling in law enforcement to, investigate. And again, I almost think existing laws should suffice. I don't know what
again,
the red flags are.
That's my thing.
Flag?
That's my thing. I think existing laws do suffice. That's why these laws scare me. I believe red flag laws give more power to the paranoid.
Carrie is saying that law needs serious rewrite. I want to look at what she's been saying. She's been commenting on here. She says the law is incomplete. California legislature passed a measure in 2016 to allow high school and college employees, coworkers, and mental health professionals to file such petitions, but this legislation was vetoed by Governor Jerry Brown. So I'm assuming that there is some sort
there is something right now. You can get a restraining order against someone. I think it's the same criteria of restraining order. So whatever, you can get a restraining order against someone with these, and then within that, if you have a restraining order against this person, I believe there are stipulations in there that if that person has firearms, you've already got a restraining order against them that you can push that to actually have their firearms confiscated as long as there's a restraining order against them. So I don't know what the rules are for getting a restraining order, But basically, what it does is it adds more teeth to the restraining order by if a judge has determined that this person does indeed need a restraining order, it can now also include removing their guns. So I don't know what the criteria is for getting a restraining order.
Hmm. Okay. So Mike wants me to tell people about the restrictions of the Ninth Amendment. I don't know about any restrictions of the Ninth Amendment other than the Ninth Amendment simply says that the numbering of the amendments should not be used to deny a person certain, any of their
Not
other rights.
not necessarily the numbering. The word literally is the enumeration. So
Yeah,
I believe that's referring
that's the
to,
act of numbering something.
well, but I believe it's the act of putting it on the list. Specifically,
Okay.
not necessarily the order, but the idea being it. Just the reason of the Ninth Amendment was that there were several of the founders, they did not want a bill. They wanted a Bill of Rights to say we want to clearly write out what the government can't do, what the
Mhm.
restrictions are on the government, and the other half saying we don't want to strictly write that out, because if we write that out, that then becomes the only list, and anything outside that list the government can say, well, then we do have authority over this.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
then the Ninth Amendment was written by the people who didn't want a Bill of Rights at all, to say, fine, we'll put a Bill of Rights, but we'll add this one in here saying just because it's not enumerated here does. Oh, wow, I just lost your screen just went really small. But just because it's not enumerated here, just because it's not on this list, doesn't mean that it's not valid. All right, so you're
Okay. The feed looks fine still.
right. Your
Okay.
feed just lost resolution on mine, so it's really really tiny. I'm gonna make it big on there
No worries.
again.
All right. Well, I do appreciate you. Oh, yeah, it went
Yeah.
small.
So give me a second. You can keep talking.
Okay, technical difficulties. I do want to say I appreciate you explaining it to me. Uh, Michael, no need to troll about it. Again, I did not understand it, and that's okay. Nobody knows everything. And I do want to look at a couple of the other comments here.
All right.
So
I think I
Jackie's
got you
pointing out
back,
that
but
they're
if yours
already
changes again, you might suddenly get really really big.
okay. Yeah, Jackie is pointing out that there's already laws like this. So um, I don't know what we do here, but I would argue that rather than come to seize firearms, we need to focus on people because people are the
Once
ones
again,
who act.
welcome to the right.
Right. I'm not saying that we should not have sensible firearm laws, but what I am saying is that people should be the focus of our action, and
Mm-hmm.
we need to get people counseling. We need to pay attention to people.
I,
We need to look for warning signs. But again, a warning sign is not a kid reading a magazine about firearms. Lots of kids read about lots of things. It doesn't mean that they're going to shoot up the
yeah.
school. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. So, what constitutes a red
Sorry, I'm
flag?
waving. I'm
I
waving at
would
my
say
family. They just got home. They went to go see a movie, so they just came in. I'm doing my
I
podcast.
would say a red flag is going to be established again by mental health professionals. These are laws that need to be
Or an
written.
actionable threat. You know what I mean? If there's an actionable threat.
Well, again, law enforcement and mental health professionals need to team up to write the laws, and then judges need to basically the judges need to make the decision. They need to make all the decisions. This has to come to a judge with expert testimony. And if there's not a credible threat, if a person passes their evaluation, give them their property or release them or whatever we're going to do, and that's the
Mm-hmm.
end of it. And we can't stop all of these cases, and we can't shred the Constitution because we are afraid that someone's going to shoot up the school or the
All right, hold
Walmart.
on a second. I'm
At
gonna I'm gonna
the
I'm gonna
day,
get our lower thirds, and I'm gonna change your you are no longer a socialist liberal. I gotta find another.
gosh,
You're talking. We cannot
yeah,
shred the Constitution. For the sake. I'm like, who am I talking to? What?
no, I think it's just common sense. I think it's common
It is
sense.
common
I
sense.
don't.
It's just odd coming from you.
Well, no, again, this is just common sense. This isn't, a fundamental economic issue. If I wanted to take a socialist approach to firearm laws, I would say we need to issue firearms to all women and minorities.
Heck yeah.
That's the real socialist approach to firearm laws. But that's not what we're talking about here. So we're just talking about these red flag laws, and I think it makes sense that a person who is a danger to you with a firearm is also a danger to you with a knife or an
Mm-hmm.
automobile or even just their bare hands. So the firearm in their hands makes them very efficient, but you take away the firearm, they can still do harm. They can still hurt you with a knife. They can run people over with an automobile. If they have certain chemicals and substances and some knowledge of chemistry, they can build a
Yeah,
bomb.
four people
So,
got stabbed to death in
you
Orange
know,
County this
so
week.
today, the person has to be the focus of a red flag law. Using a law to confiscate a person's property for more than a short period of time during the evaluation period. I could see doing it during an evaluation period, but that evaluation period needs to be absolutely
Yeah, see
short. Like I would
these laws,
7 tops.
these red flag laws, and similar to the one in California that extended the restraining order to confiscating the person's firearms it was their firearms were confiscated for a year.
That's not appropriate. That's not appropriate. So yeah, I think you can assess a person's mental state within a very short period of time. And what we need to do is, if we're going to have these laws on the books, then we need to also fund them, and we need to make the mental health professionals as well as the legal professionals available to enforce them. This is one of the things, is we have these courts that are absolutely backed up and clogged. And why? Because there's only a tiny handful of judges and a tiny handful of doctors and only 2 or 3 mental health professionals who are so uncommon that they can basically name their price, and it's
Well,
very expensive.
I beg to differ with that. I beg to differ with that a little bit. Actually, I think, did I lose your audio? Are you still there? You.
We need more judges, more doctors, and more mental health professionals. We need more
Well,
experts,
not
and we
only
need
that, think we need some kind of court reform, because again, I
yes,
I've used this example before. I went to I got a ticket which I thought didn't deserve because the sign was partially covered by a bush. It just literally said speed limit, and the bush was in front of it, and I didn't see it. And I was going what I thought the speed limit was. So when I went to fight it, I was in traffic court for 3 hours while a lawyer representing a truck driver was trying to the guy had ran a red light with a red light camera. It was his face, it was the light, everything was there, and we sat there for at least 2 of the 3 hours listening to this lawyer drone on and try to challenge the police. This person was obviously guilty, and it's just this lawyer trying to game the system and trying to find a loophole. And I think our courts are so tied up with long, I mean, there is no speedy trials. It's all tied up with, well, then this, or check this procedure, or this or that, and all for a person who's clearly guilty. Just judge them, get it over with, get it done. I mean, I don't think we need months and months and months of dancing around dancing around this little fire, trying to for someone who's clearly guilty. And it's just it's absolutely
well,
ridiculous, the hoops we jump through, and then we can't actually do anything with this person because then there's this appeal, then there's the next appeal, then there's the other appeal, and it's just like
well,
it that's what's tying up
all
our
of those things
courts.
exist. Right. That's how the system works. That's how the game is played. I think for me, the solution isn't necessarily to make sure everybody is rushed to the courts, or we say, well, you're obviously guilty. No, I mean, a person is entitled to a fair hearing, and they're entitled to all the
Yes.
rights that they are guaranteed to under the law. However, I think if we widen the pipe, if we simply have more courts, more judges, more professionals, processing more material, then the natural
And
result of
less
that is
frivolous
simply
lawsuits.
right. It's a faster justice system. So, I do understand that there is silliness in the law system. That's what lawyers do. They thrive on that. And we might need some sort of tort reform to address some of the worst abuses. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
again, more courtrooms with more judges, with more experts on hand. That's what's going to give us the relief we need. And that's just a very straightforward solution. So, given that,
Yeah, you won't get more. Jackie says you won't get more professionals with student
Yeah,
loan
I'm reading
debt.
that now. That's true. Well, hey, I guess vote for Bernie Sanders then, or someone who's going to do away with all of that.
Yeah,
I
let's
don't know
get
what
rid
that
of
will
all the debt that
achieve.
you agreed to pay. Anyway, that's a different topic.
That's right. That's right. Well, maybe we have to do a show on that.
Yeah,
Um,
as my son is getting ready to go to college and
Scott is mentioning that conservatives don't like the Ninth Amendment. Okay, yeah, there's this whole debate there that I don't know how that
I'm
works
not
or
familiar with it either.
is. Yeah, I'm not either.
Well, the problem with the
So
Ninth
we'll
Amendment
have
is it doesn't
Scott.
really it's not enough to actually do anything. Like it just says just because it's like it doesn't add any real clarity because
Right.
it's so maybe those people were right. Maybe we should have had a longer Bill of Rights so that added more clarity. But anyway,
Yeah. We haven't heard from Josh Gunderson today.
oh well, too bad, Josh. Maybe you'll join us next
He's
time.
busy. Um, but yeah, so do we agree then that the person needs to be the focus of any red flag
The
laws that are made?
Well, again, I don't think any red flag laws need to be made. I think that if the person is making a threat, that we already have laws. If there's an actionable threat, then we move on the actionable threat. But I don't think we need any additional red flag laws. I believe that it's just a way of rewarding paranoia. People are already paranoid of guns. They see a kid with a BB gun, they call the police. They see, they see a jack mounted on the front of a Jeep. It's a long jack, has a handle here, handle there, and it's black, mounted on the front of the Jeep. We have people calling it, that guy's carrying an assault rifle on the front of his car. And that we already have so many ignorant, paranoid people that I don't want to give any laws that give them any more power to their ignorance. I believe that red flag laws are just laws that give power to the ignorant, and I don't want any of them. I don't think we need them. If somebody does something that is actionable, then take action. If somebody does,
Would a red flag law have prevented any mass
not
shootings
these,
that we know of?
not the most recent ones. I mean, the guy put the manifesto up, but that was the day of. That was as he went out the door to go do
5 minutes before he started.
What's that?
That was 5 minutes before he
Right.
started.
You know what I mean? I mean, what red flags are there? Most of the time, there aren't actionable red flags in these. So what you're doing is that in order to sound effective, we got to make these effective so we can try to, let's get some numbers. How do we know this is effective? Well, this is how many people we arrested with the law. That would prove its effectiveness. Because you can't prove the effectiveness of the law by saying this is how many mass shootings we stopped. Because when you stop, that's the main problem of the argument for defensive use of guns, is that it's really difficult to prove that you stopped the mass shooting. You know what I mean? Because there are no numbers. You don't have here's these 27 people dead. Here's these 14 people dead. These massive numbers that get the headlines. You don't have the numbers. You have, one person dead who came in. Oh, and that doesn't even show up as a potential anything. So it's very difficult how would you say that we stopped a mass shooting with these laws? The only measurable evidence you could have for the quote success of these red flag laws would be to show how many people were detained. So it would literally be a game of let's detain as many people as we can and say, look what we've done. We've stopped all these mass shootings.
I think that's a little more cynical than I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it would be that bad.
Think like a politician. Think like a politician. Think like a politician.
Well,
Again, most of the but the politicians are making the laws. Most of the gun laws that exist right now make no sense whatsoever, but politicians stand up there and say, look what we can do. We've taken away this many magazines. What have you actually done? You can't show it. You don't, it's literally just, well, we're going to stand up here and look what we've done. We've done this and we've taken, we bought back this, or we did. There's nothing tangible to what they actually did. There's no tangible way that you can measure the success of the red flag laws other than as long as we show, how do you know that the war on drugs is effective? Let's show how many drugs we've seized and how many people we've arrested on drugs. Then you say we're winning because arrests are up. I mean, that's what politicians do.
That's a whole nother scam.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. This opens another door to that.
This from south of the border.
Right, but I'm saying this opens the door to another scam. Another scam for politicians. That's unnecessary and accomplishes nothing.
Hmm. Well, I don't know, Scott. I think I tend to agree with you, but I would think that there's room for it at least tightening up exist. Um, and I think enforcing the existing laws should be relatively adequate. And again, the problem is we have to do something, and it's important that the something we do is the right thing, as you would like
Yep.
to point out. And I'm not too clear on what the right thing is to do, but we still have to keep chewing on the problems
Well,
because
the right thing is this. It's a very simple answer. It's literally what everybody's trying to say, but it's difficult to codify in law. Once you try to codify it in law is where you get them up to a problem. But it is what they're trying to say, which is reach out to these people before it happens. Then how do you know who they are? It doesn't matter. Reach out to everyone. Love everyone. Love your
wow,
neighbor. Love the person
welcome
next
to
to
the
you.
left, comrade.
Now this is where
Welcome to the
this is
left,
where
comrade.
Jesus has always been. You as an individual. No, the left says the government must be the love for you, and the government must
Mm-hmm.
love people for you. No, the right says it's in the right side of the aisle says it's individual responsibility. You love your neighbors. You love the people next to you. You love the person who might, if they look like a loner, or if they look like, they're having a bad day. If you hear that, something happened in their life, their spouse or family member got cancer, or somebody died in their family, or, or even they got an F on their test, whatever it is in school, or their girlfriend broke up with them. You be the love. Don't make fun of them. Don't be a bully. Don't be love. You be the love to everyone. And as we are the love to everyone, we will be affecting those people who might be going down this road, who might be thinking about going down this road. But if you try and say, oh, let's find that, I think that person is bad, let's go tell on them, that's not the solution. The solution is love all the people around you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know.
And go to church.
Are we going to pass the law now that the government's going to
It
issue
cannot, no, it cannot be a law. That's what I'm saying. People like you, Marshall, I'm saying this, people like you on the left and socialists think that we have to make more laws to make people better. Laws don't make people better. You
right.
cannot change the inside of a person by writing a law. You have to reach out with your heart and change and help that person change from the inside out. A law will never change a person.
This comes back to what we talked about at the end of our last show, where we talked about some sort of moral education for people beginning in
go to church. Go to church.
Yeah. And again, I'm not.
There's already an established institution that teaches you how to be a better human.
Yeah. Well, there's no reason why schools can't also teach some sort of basic civility and morality to young people. And to some degree, I think that is taught. Kids are told to play nice and get along and be fair with one another. But I think we do need to ramp it up. And again, maybe a little bit less time with Algebra 2, a little bit more time with civics and, mental health stuff.
I think we might get better. Just simply, let's have more art programs. Let's have more theater programs. Have more music programs. Schools just started to, more outlets and more artistic things that stimulate that side of the brain instead of just here's these facts and numbers and that's what school is. Like, let's, I think the more expression that we can give students and the more opportunities for expression, I think might also help some of this stuff. So, Wow. Once again, two people from opposite sides of the aisle came together and solved all the problems of the universe.
Well, that's the point of this whole show, folks, is the idea that two people on completely different sides of an ideological divide can sit together and have a respectful and constructive conversation without tearing each other down and maybe come to some sort of agreement or solution. And we don't always agree, but at least we understand the other side a little bit better, and there's value in that.
Yep. Well, this has been A Valid Answer with Scott and Marshall, your capitalist conservative pastor and your social, which side are you on, this side? Social liberal atheist. Yeah, there we go. And we come on our podcast right here on Facebook. You can search for us A Valid Answer or right here on kerncast.com every Sunday night at 5. Until next time, this is Scott.
And Marshall.
You guys have a great week.
Thank you everyone for watching.